If you're new to language teaching, one of the hardest things is knowing how to structure a basic lesson. In this video, we'll show you one of the simplest lesson frameworks in TESOL, which is presentation, practice, and production, or PPP. I'm going to build an entire lesson from scratch so you can see exactly how it works in practice. PPP has its roots in something called situational language teaching, so if you'd like to know more about where it came from and the theory behind it, check out our explainer on situational language teaching after you've watched this episode. By the end of this episode, you'll have a complete lesson that you can adapt and teach yourself. Okay, let's get started, and let's imagine I'm teaching beginner elementary level. My aim is going to be students will be able to use the present simple to talk about their weekday morning routines. So the first thing I'm going to do here is divide my whiteboard into two sections. On the left, I'm going to build vocabulary, and on the right, I'm going to present the grammar point. The important thing is that I keep everything on the board throughout the lesson so students can refer back to it whenever they need to. Let's start then with the lead-in of the lesson. So I begin by writing every weekday morning in the middle of the left-hand side of the whiteboard. I'll quickly concept check this phrase. So I'll point to the calendar or a calendar and ask questions like, is Saturday a weekday? Is Sunday a weekday? Or what about Monday? And how many weekdays are there? I could also focus on the word every because this is important to the grammar point. Once everybody in the class understands the situation and this key vocabulary, I'll start eliciting more vocabulary for the activity itself. So I might show a few pictures and ask students what they can see. So hopefully they can produce phrases like drink coffee, brush my teeth, have breakfast, go to work. And we can see here that I'm eliciting a verb and also an object as well. So I'll concept check any new vocabulary as we go. Next, I'll put students into pairs and ask them to brainstorm more things that people do every weekday morning. After a couple of minutes, we'll share ideas as a class and I'll write their suggestions on the left-hand side of the board. This vocabulary stays there because we'll need to use it in the next stage of the lesson. The next stage of the lesson is presentation. So now I move over to the right-hand side of the board and I write, every weekday morning, I drink coffee. Then I highlight the structure. So I is the subject, drink is the verb, and coffee is the object. I explain that this is the present simple. We use it to talk about our routines and things that generally happen. I'll concept check again with questions like, so do I drink coffee only on Monday or do I drink coffee every weekday morning? This helps students understand the meaning, not just the form. We're going to move on then to our next P, which is practice. And I'll give the students a simple gap fill or sentence building activity. They'll use the vocabulary we've collected on the left-hand side of the board to build new present simple sentences. For example, every weekday morning, I brush my teeth. Every weekday morning, I have breakfast. Students compare their answers in pairs while I monitor and provide support where necessary. Let's move on to our third P, which is production. On the board, I write one question. What do you do every weekday morning? I could even maybe drill that with the students. That could be quite fun. I'm then going to model this with a student and then get that student to ask another student. And this is to help the students to understand the activity. I'll instruct students to work in pairs, asking and answering this question. They also have scaffolding there to support them. So this is the grammar model on the right-hand side of the board. This is the vocabulary on the left-hand side of the board, and also the sentences that they've already written. If they need to refer to them, they are there. So this is a really well-structured lesson. After a few minutes, we'll finish with some whole class feedback. So you could do this where they just report back about what they themselves do every weekday morning, or if you want to step it up, instead, they could talk about the student that they were paired with and report back on what their partner said. This naturally encourages them to change the subject, but also checks their listening and understanding skills. So, for example, they could report back, she drinks coffee every weekday morning, or he has breakfast. At this point, you've completed a full PPP lesson. The nice thing about this approach is that everything builds really logically, and students begin with vocabulary, move to grammar, they practice it in a controlled way, and finally use it to communicate. And once they're comfortable with this lesson, it's easy to extend it or reproduce it with another grammar point. You could introduce time expressions like 8 o'clock. You could introduce adverbs of frequency such as always, usually, sometimes, or you could even add a negative like I never drink coffee in the morning. That's PPP in action, and it's a simple framework that takes students from understanding new language to using it for communication. Remember to like and subscribe because that would help us so much. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't stop here. Next, I'd recommend watching our explainer on CLT, or if you're feeling confident, our explainer on TBLT to show how a completely different lesson framework can change the way that you teach. Here are the links both on the screen, and I'll see you in the next video.